Since the end of August, I abandoned book 2 of my space opera series to focus on editing my first ever book for my new Patreon and Substack. But once I started, I realized that this book needed way more than an edit. It needed a full rewrite. And now, nearly 3 months later, I'm almost done. I first wrote this book back in 2014. Evolution is one of the central themes of this book, and this story and its characters have gone through a lot of change. And so have I. By the end of this video, this book will be completed, and I'm not sure how to feel. Hey, what's up guys? It's LDJ Writes here, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm a fantasy and science fiction writer who is working on a large-scale world-building project that I call the Eternal Keyverse. And the last time that I made a writing vlog on this channel, I was working on a project called Anarchist. It was the second book in my space opera trilogy, and I have shelved that project after getting about 60,000 words in. I stopped working on that in the middle of August, and I decided to pick up a new project that I will explain a little bit later in this video. But it's a little dark in here. I live in Southern California, and we're going through a weird kind of storm, so there's no sunlight coming through my window on the right side of the screen. Maybe that's the left side. The camera's flipped, I don't really know. But that's why half of my face is covered in shadow, like I'm Two-Face. But I am going to change the angle, as I'm going to get into the project that I've been working on since the end of August. So, like I mentioned, I've been working on a new-ish project. Now, I'm saying new-ish because technically, this is the first book that I ever wrote. It's called Red Skies, and it's the first book in my superhero, political thriller, sci-fi trilogy that I call the Prime Archives. And this was the first book that I ever wrote, the first series that I ever finished, and these characters mean a whole lot to me and to the entire scope of the Eternal Keyverse. Towards the end of August, when I was working on Anarchist, I had the idea, or I had this idea for a long time, but a couple of my viewers and members of my Discord server encouraged me to start a Patreon. And if you guys don't know what Patreon is, it's basically a platform where creators can put exclusive content or stuff that doesn't fit anywhere else, and they can have their fans subscribe to a tier and support them that way. Supporters get extra stuff, and creators get a little bit more support from their die-hard supporters. And I've had the idea to start a Patreon for a long time now, but I wasn't quite sure what to put on it, when was the best time to launch it, how many followers I should launch at. I was afraid no one would even join, but I was encouraged to start it, and I did start it. And part of my rollout plan was to upload chapters weekly of a book of my choosing. Since my entire writing journey is built around the Eternal Keyverse and bringing this massive idea to fruition, I thought, why not start with the first book in the timeline and the first book that started off the Eternal Keyverse in the first place, Red Skies. So that's what I got to doing. And I've rewritten this book multiple times over the years. I started writing it for the first time in 2014, and it is now 2025. So I've been working on this book for a while. It was on its third draft before I decided to rewrite it. I initially wanted to launch my Patreon at the end of August, and I had the idea to start it in the middle of August. So I gave myself about 2 to 3 weeks to re-edit the entire thing. But as I started going over the chapters, I realized this book is going to need a lot more than an edit, than a repolish. When I first started, I was saying I was remastering the chapters, like how an anime or like a TV show might remaster something, or kind of like how a video game would remaster something for a new console. But I realized my writing style has changed a lot since I was a 14-year-old, from an 18-year-old, even from a 20-year-old, which is the last time I touched this particular book. So I scrapped my plans of editing the book, and I decided to rewrite the entire thing. And that brings us to now, November 13th, and I'm almost done with this book. I've got about 6 or 7. I hate that I just did that. I've got about 7 chapters left until I'm done with this book. Going through this book was kind of like reliving not my childhood, but like my adolescent years all over again. Because when I first wrote Red Skies, I was going through kind of a troubling time in high school. I had just switched schools in the middle of my freshman year to a school that was a big culture shock for me. I had no friends. Like, I was struggling in school because of the sudden change. I was behind in schoolwork and just all kinds of things. I had to quit my Minecraft YouTube channel at the time. So yeah, I was down bad as a 14-year-old. So writing Red Skies, which it was called something else back then, but writing Red Skies was kind of like a refuge from all the stuff that I was dealing with in my life. So going through this book and seeing how much it's changed from its first iteration has been kind of a cool moment for me. I kind of wanted to take some time to talk about how I'm addressing a lot of the issues that I found in the book, because while this has been a nice trip down memory lane, it needed to be edited. Like, there was no way that I could feel comfortable just touching up some of the prose and throwing it on Patreon and expecting people to pay their hard-earned money to read this. So I decided the plot needed a bit of a reworking. Some of the character arcs needed more fleshing out. A lot of the minor characters needed building up, because in the previous version, which was the third draft by the way, a lot of the characters who weren't like the point of view characters, Chase, Emily, and Oscar, those are the point of view characters, they kind of felt flat. So I felt that I could do a lot better, because the last time I rewrote this book was in 2020. That was 5 years ago. And my writing style has changed a lot since then. I've become a much better writer since then, and I knew what I was capable of, and I knew what this story was capable of. So the main things that I wanted to do was to sharpen my 3 point of views. Chase is the first one. A little bit about him. He is an army brat. He is the leader of the team of 6 superheroes that this story revolves around. And his character arc was supposed to be that he starts off as kind of like the lone wolf figure. He doesn't let himself get attached to people because he's used to moving around a lot. He has to change schools. He doesn't really get to stay friends with a lot of the people that he meets. So he finds it easier to just not get close to anyone. But part of his character arc is not only becoming a leader to this kind of ragtag group of people who become sort of a found family, but he also has to learn that it's okay to go through life with people. He doesn't have to do everything by himself. And I feel like that part of his character arc wasn't really getting through in the previous draft. Considering where I'm at right now, I feel like I'm doing a really good job with Chase's character development. And our second point of view character is Oscar. I've got them kind of in a rotating order. Usually it goes 2 chapters, you switch, but sometimes it's 3 chapters, sometimes it's 1, but the order goes Chase, Oscar, then Emily. And next up, Oscar is the point of view who I think didn't need that much changing, because he's such a dynamic character and his backstory is the darkest out of all of them. Oscar is kind of the comedic relief of the book. He's one of the 2 funniest characters in the original 6. That's what I call the main 6 characters of this series. Part of his backstory has to do with him being orphaned as a child, and the powers that he gets early on in the book directly link to the trauma that led to the death of his parents. I wanted to hone in on the fear he has of not only his new abilities, but of himself, and a lot of the guilt and shame that he carries because of that. And he's kind of one of those characters who is really funny. He's always cracking jokes. He kind of doesn't take things seriously, but it's kind of just a mask for how he really feels inside. And I can't wait to get to the other books in this trilogy, because I touched more on, his development and the mask that he wears more so in other books. In this book, it's kind of more just setting him up and setting up his larger character arc, which in my opinion is one of the best character arcs in the entire Eternal Keyverse. And last but not least, we've got Emily, who is the maverick of the group. She kind of doesn't take orders, doesn't really listen to anybody. She's kind of a lone wolf in her own right, but for different reasons. And a lot of her character arc has to do with another character in the original 6, Stella James. Stella is Chase's love interest, and she also used to be Emily's love interest way before the book started. But a lot of her character arc had to do with her sexuality. I'm a straight black man. Emily is a lesbian Asian woman. So there's a lot of this particular point of view that I didn't get right in previous versions, but I think I'm doing a good job. in this version. I've not had any complaints, and people seem to be enjoying Emily, which is a nice thing to see because when I used to post this book on Wattpad, Emily used to be the least favorite character in the entire book. So I think I'm doing something right. A lot of Emily's character arc is just her coming to terms with herself, especially with her sexuality, but also with her newfound powers and how that kind of ostracizes her from the rest of society. She's kind of already felt like an outcast in her entire life because of her upbringing and because of something that happened between her and Stella, but the new added fold of her being a new evolved species of human kind of wraps all of that into a big metaphor, and she has to come to terms with herself, who her people are, and finding a sense of community throughout the course of this book. I'm really enjoying these 3 character arcs, and I think I'm doing a good job. But I am getting to the tail end of this book, which culminates in a big action sequence. And if you know me, you know that I love a big action sequence.
I had recorded a clip that explained this before, but it somehow got lost, so I'll just say it again here. Before I get into the big action set piece, I need to finish the kind of setup scene, so I'm going to head out to my favorite coffee shop and finish up this scene, give me a hot chocolate, and then head home to start on the actual battle scene. I'm really excited about this sequence, and I can't wait to finish up these last couple of chapters. I'll see you guys when I'm at the coffee shop.
So it's been a couple of days since my writing session at the coffee shop, and I have done some writing in between that, and I have successfully finished the setup chapters to the big climax. Well, kinda. I got one more. There's a scene where my characters get captured by the bad guys, and there's a chapter that happens right after that, and then we get into the big battle. So I've got that last chapter, which I'm gonna try and finish today. While I was thinking about what else to record for this video and how many chapters I had left in the book, I realized what I said earlier about this video not ending until the book is done. Yeah, I might have lied. Not on purpose though, but I might have lied because I might have overshot how fast I was going to be able to finish these last couple of chapters. I'm on chapter 34, I think, chapter 33 or 34, and I think this book's going to be around 40 to 41. For a little bit of context, the third draft of this book is at 39,000 chapters. The current version of this book is at 39 chapters, and it was about 105,000 words. Well, this version is at 111,000 words and counting, and it's got a couple of more chapters. Throughout the entire process of rewriting this book, I have cut chapters, I've restructured chapters, I've completely gotten rid of scenes, I've rewritten scenes. And in that process, I thought the book was going to end up being shorter because people say you want to have a debut under 100K. And I actually don't know if Red Skies would ever be my debut. It is the first book in the Eternal Keyverse, but I don't know if it's going to be the first book that I ever published. One of my aims when rewriting this was to try and get it under or at 100K. And currently, it's at 111K. So there's that. It's not my longest book, but it's getting up there. So yeah, what else did I want to say? I totally forgot about what I was just talking about. Oh my goodness. As you guys can tell, I haven't filmed in a while. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, I think I was talking about changes to the final battle. So I'm currently at chapter 34. And the way I have my point of views structured, I think I mentioned this before, but there's 3 point of views: Chase, Oscar, Emily, and it goes in a rotating order, has to follow the same order. So it goes Chase, Oscar, then Emily. I just finished off on Oscar. Wait, nope. We've got one more Oscar chapter before we get into Emily. But I did change something. The previous chapter, the chapter that I just finished was in Oscar's point of view, but previously it was Chase's point of view. So I had to make an extra scene for Chase before that, and then have the 2 Oscar chapters, and then the climax actually is going to start with Emily, which in the previous version it starts with Oscar. So a couple of things are being changed. One of the big things being changed is the fight scenes with the main villain. His name is Klaus Rasmussen. He actually hasn't shown up in a lot of the book, at least not in a physical sense, I guess. While he is the main antagonist, the antagonists that my characters come across with and fight the most are Apex, Frost, and Lycan. They are primes who have superpowers and stuff like that. They're the ones my characters fight. But Klaus, who is also a prime and has powers of his own, we really only get to see him physically in the first 2 chapters, and then we get to see him through like video messages somewhere in the middle, and then a little bit before this current like final 3rd arc, and then we don't get to like see him in person again until the last couple chapters with the final fight. And before I started rewriting this book, I did a whole kind of character, I don't even know what to say. I didn't change his character, but I did change his name, and I changed his powers. So that kind of really affected how I have to write the scenes where my characters fight him. So I'm really excited about that actually. I have to change a lot about that fight scene, but the core structure of the battle is going to stay pretty much the same, just I'm going to have to change the fight scenes with Klaus. Now, before I get out of here, I did want to share a couple of things that I've made for this book across the years, and one of those things is going to be the playlist for this book. A little bit of a fun fact. I guess it's a fun fact. I don't know. It's just a fact, I guess. But the Red Skies playlist is the first playlist or book soundtrack that I ever made for any one of my books. It was the pioneer, I guess you could say, and it's what really made me fall in love with making soundtracks for my books. And this one is a lot less cohesive than some of the later ones because I really kind of like honed in on what I was trying to do. With this book soundtrack, it's kind of just a bunch of songs that I really liked that I thought fit the general vibe of the book, but not necessarily, there's not really a whole lot of thematic through line through a lot of the songs. Like some of them are, but like I just kind of wanted to get a bunch of like loud, abrasive, kind of high energy songs because that's how this book is. And I just want to talk about some of my favorite songs on here that do kind of have a bigger meaning for the larger book. I'll start with the intro song. Disco is a song by Surf Curse. It's one of my favorite bands, and this song kind of just embodies the first chapter, which starts off with Chase going to a high school party in the woods where he meets some of the other main characters, and I kind of just imagine this is one of the songs that's playing in the background as he's walking through the woods. Next up, we've got My Enemy, which is towards the middle of the soundtrack, and it's also a song that I think coincides with the middle of the book. It is Electro's theme from the Amazing Spider-Man 2 movie, and this song is by Hans Zimmer. It's mostly instrumental, but there are some words in here, and this song really feels like the conflict that goes between Apex's mind. Apex is one of the main villains of the entire book, and I feel like it really encapsulates a lot of the inner turmoil that he feels. He doesn't get a point of view or anything. He is the antagonist, but I try to get across that his character is kind of battling 2 sides of himself. And then what else have we got? We've got Everyone Wants to Rule the World, but not the Tears for Fears version. Actually, I have the Lord version that she made for Catching Fire, the second Hunger Games movie. And I include both of them because they kind of have different vibes. This one appears a little bit earlier in the soundtrack because I feel like it's the calm before the storm. Like, I feel like this song plays right before the final battle happens. And then the actual version of the song is the second to last track on the soundtrack. And I feel like it's kind of like, it feels more like the resolution, while the Lord version of the song feels like, you know, the calm part before the battle. And at the final track is On Time by Metro Boomin and John Legend from Metro Boomin's album Heroes and Villains. And I just felt like including a song from that album, which was very hero villain themed, just fit. And also the vibe of the song just sounds like the end of a movie, even though I'm pretty sure it's the first song on Heroes and Villains. For what I'm doing, it just felt perfect to put at the end. So yeah, that's just a little bit about my soundtrack. Here's a look at the Pinterest board that I have for the entire series, but most of the images in here kind of just relate to Red Skies because when I was making the Pinterest board, that's what I was working on. I don't have a lot of images that coincide with the other two books. So yeah, here's the Pinterest board. And yeah, I'm gonna get to work on writing the last transition scene before the big final climax. And I'll see you guys in the next vlog where I finally write this big battle. I've been ODJ Writes, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.